Hello and welcome to another Blood and Pigment ship review. Today we're here talking about the Tartana. I'm Joseph.
I am Guy.
And I'm Dan.
Originating in the Mediterranean, the Tartana is a light cargo or fishing ship that was adapted for use in the Caribbean. In Blood and Plunder, it is a 2-deck ship, and it costs 12 points to put in your force.
The Tartanna's max speed is 4 inches. It has sail settings at 4 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches, 0, and an anchored setting. Its windward value is -0, and it has a turn value of 4 inches.
Tartana has a hull fortitude of 4 and a hull integrity of 4. It takes 12 hits to drop the ship to 1 fortitude. The ship's rigging has fortitude 3 and integrity 5, and the ship's draft is also 5.
The Tartana's forward deck can hold up to 21 models with small. There's no cannons up there, so that doesn't matter. The rear deck can hold up to 13 models with the 4 light cannons.
The forward deck has mounts for 4 swivel guns. The rear deck can have 4 cannons and 2 swivel guns.
The Tartana has the traits easy to handle and lateen-rigged. The upgrade sweeps 3 may be purchased for 2 points.
This is a nice tiny ship that's a easy upgrade to a bark.
Yeah, it feels kind of a middle of the road spot between the bark and the sloop, which is kind of a hard spot to fill. Much better than the bark, but not as good as the sloop. But the point differential is so small that it's kind of hard to want to jump on this over the sloop, but it's kind of a little funny corner of the game.
I actually take it a lot of the time just because I like how the model looks. That forward rake on the forward mast with the giant lateen sail like that looks really cool.
Remind us of that rule that you read from the Book of Wargaming, Dan?
Oh, the Book of Wargaming. Let me. Thou shalt buyeth the models that lookest the coolest to thine own taste. Paraphrasing. I did write the book.
Yeah, I think that's a big perk of this ship. It's very unique. Those big lateen sails are just very different than anything else in the game. Looks very exotic and piratey.
Yeah, if you want to get crazy with it, you could almost do them up like Chinese junk sails, and it would look really cool.
But let's get down to the nitty gritty and look at the stats and compare it to its competitors, the bark and the sloop. So when we look at the sailing options, speed 4, windward 0, turn 4, those are exactly the same as this sloop, right?
Yes, they are.
And does the bark have those same stats?
No, the bark
Has
has windward -1.
Right, that's a big difference. Draft is 5. That's the same as the sloop, I think, or sloop 6. I should have prepared for this.
Sloop is actually 4.
That's impossible because it's
Oh,
that's a misprint on the card.
I'm looking at the old card. Ah,
So you have to roll a d10, and then to actually beat your ship, you need a 15. So if it was 4, the sloop would be like a hovercraft.
unsinkable.
Yeah, yeah. Sloop is 5, so that's
Is that why you take the ship so often, Joe? So it's impossible to run aground on a shoal?
yeah. Give me that 4 draft. So very similar to the basically same as a sloop there. Although if you look into the special rules, the sloop has fore and aft rig, which gives you a bonus for tacking, and it can't do the box haul. This one has lateen rig. It can't do the box haul, but it gets no bonus to the tack. And the tack is a key maneuver that gives you a real advantage in the game. So this was not
Especially
quite
if you're gonna
as good at
spend a lot of time
sailing.
windward like this ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other ability compares poorly as well. Easy to handle is exactly like simple rig, but simple rig gives you +1 to your fortitude for your rigging when it's being targeted.
Right. The easy to handle, you can change your sail settings with a standard action instead of a dedicated action. Simple rig, same sentence, and then +1 penalty when shooting at the rigging. So
That's
this was
only for
easier
the
to shoot.
initial cannon hit too. That +1 fortitude.
Right.
I think this ship was tailor made for the Spanish Corsairs. It's an upgrade for 2 points to get sweeps 3 instead of sweeps 2 on the sloop. So put the Spanish Corsairs on there. You can basically move 4 inches without worrying about your sail. On that point, you really don't care about the wind because that's your top speed anyway.
Yeah, it's a great ship for the Corsairs. Not very many ships have sweep 3. I think it's this one, the Corvette, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's it.
And
It also has an advantage with the Corsair list where the forward deck isn't the cannon deck. So if the opponent wants to stop your guns from firing, they have to shoot a deck that doesn't have all your rowers on it.
that's right.
I would also argue with the sweeps rule. You have to place a unit in kind of like the middlemost deck of a ship to crew the sweeps. And with the line between the forward and rear deck of the ship is almost in the middle of the ship.
Yeah, I don't know which deck you're supposed to put them in. It's supposed to be the lowest deck, isn't it?
No, it's the most center deck.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if you could. You probably do it at the front deck because the cannons are getting in the way in the back deck. So
Yeah, it's more advantageous to put it in the front deck. Let's talk about arms though, really quick, since I mentioned
yeah,
it. The 4 forward swivel guns.
that's always good. That makes a ship good automatically almost. So it can be a very aggressive ship. Fire 12 dice out of the front of the ship. So if you're going to board somebody, you can hit them hard while you're approaching. The sloop has a 4 in the back instead of the front, which is
Yep.
non-optimal. So this has a bit of a leg up here. I like that. And it has a big front deck too, so it's easy to man those 4 swivels compared to the sloop has a small back deck with the 4 swivels. So it's a very swivelly ship.
So you got 2 pair of cannons in the back. They can be light or medium guns, and like we touched on before, they're located in the back, so your opponent's going to have a hard time hitting them, and you get to maneuver your ship very well to fire off a broadside, and then just tuck them away while they're reloading. I think it's really advantageous. I think it's really different as well, like we've been discussing. I would argue that you're almost better suited though to just ditch the cannons and run all the swivels and muskets.
I like using this as a swivel and musket ship more than a cannon ship. I guess if you're in a small game up against something like a bark, having the ability to carry medium guns is a big advantage compared to the bark that only can take tiny guns. But if you're playing anything north of 100, 125 points, I probably wouldn't run this as a cannon ship with only 2 cannons. It's not its forte, at least. And it has 2 swivels in the back. That's decent, good, but sometimes not worth running if you're going to play it as aggressive ship. You want those front swivels, but sometimes there's no
Yeah, the
reason
only
not
time
to.
I ever arm those is if I already have a crew on the cannons.
Have them all together. You can use them for a
Yeah.
defensive fire, I think.
Well, more dice is more dice.
Yep.
It is.
The cannons are on the back, which usually makes them a little bit harder to bring to bear and to shoot off accurately. But this ship has a strange, maybe unintended, I don't know, perk as far as maneuverability. Can you tell us about that guy?
Oh yeah, this ship has 5 turning skids in the front. So that is 5 different places you can match up the maneuver template. And if you use the forwardmost one, how it looks is the ship really just moves forward and pivots, which is a great way to bring the cannons in the back online, or even kind of maintain your forward momentum by just pivoting like that. It's really a lot of fun. And especially since you can have those medium guns in the back, then maybe if you're playing Brethren of the Coast, you have free grape shot in those. That can be 8 grape shot dice.
On top of your 12 swivel dice you got in the front.
Yeah, it's a nice little surprise because usually you don't expect a ship to be able to fishtail like this ship does. It actually reminds me a lot of what the Corvette can do with its. The Corvette can also bring its rear deck to bear on an opponent in front of it very easily.
The geometry is weird when they put the skids back or way forward, but this one is especially strange because it has so many different ones you can use. So very intriguing. I tend to just use the middle one because that feels more fair, and they didn't really say you can use any in the ship description, but I think they just said, yeah, you can use any because they. I'm not sure if they forgot or what.
Well, with the Paragua and the um, Canoa,
Canoe.
that was kind of from the same area. They said if there's not a skid on there, you can put it wherever you want,
Right.
which can do a lot of fun things with those ships with it.
Yeah.
And with this, or even with the sloop and others, they'll have two skids that are kind of like next to each other that you can kind of choose which one you want to turn from. So
Right.
I
Because
think
you
this
put
is
her
just
apart, it's
a
a bigger difference. But
yeah, it's a way, and it lets the ship kind of be its own thing. It makes it a little bit more unique, which I really appreciate.
gives it a little more character and flavor. Yep.
That's all we ask.
Let's look at the hull fortitude compared to some of the other ships in its class and
Oh
sail
no.
fortitude. The rigging fortitude is 3-5. That is better than the sloop. The sloop is 3-4. The bark is 3-5. So 3-5 is pretty normal. And then the hull fortitude is 4-4, and that's flimsy. That's as flimsy as a ship gets.
Yeah.
So when you compare this to a sloop, sloop has 4-5, so it has just 2 more hit points, but that is quite helpful. So this compares a little poorly to the sloop. It has the same fortitude as the Tartana, as the bark, but you have one advantage that you don't have the lightly built trait. So this ship grants full heavy cover rather than the just regular cover like the tiny bark.
Yeah, it has the same stats also as the privateer sloop, the 4-4 or corvette. So like you said, this is as tinderbox as a ship gets.
Yeah.
Um, any sustained gunfire is going to uh, start. Your ship's going to start falling apart with this, and it kind of looks that way too. It's pretty thin wood.
It's really low
Just
to the
a
ground too. A lot
yeah,
shorter profile, lower profile than the sloop even.
yeah. So if you have anybody in a flute, or sometimes even a taller ship like the 6 rate, they're going to get a height advantage against this ship.
Yeah, your models are basically standing on the ground, on the water.
Yeah.
I would say that this ship is in the same class as the privateer sloop and the corvette. They all have the same hull fortitude, but they're all a little different. Where the corvette is a really aggressive, fast-moving, boarding ship. The privateer sloop gets that 5-inch speed, but you got to dedicate guys to be on the sheets and shrouds, and that's for 1 point more. And this is like the kind of almost like the brigantine of the small ships, quote unquote. It's right in the middle. It's really good for keeping back and shooting with muskets and swivels. And if you manage to get a few hits on their rigging and slow them down with your cannons, you can catch up and board them. It's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. It's not really specialized.
Yeah, it falls right in between the bark and the sloop.
It's the brigantine
Functionality.
of the small ships. It's the mediumist.
Yeah. And if we look at the cost real quick, bark is 8, sloop is 14, this one's 12. It's not really a big difference when you're putting together a 100 or 200, even 200 point force, just 2, 3, 4 points difference.
Do you want to upgrade to a bigger ship or take one more pressed man, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the best reason to get this is because it looks awesome. If you play smaller games regularly, it's a really good option. The sloop is, we all kind of acknowledge the sloop is a really good ship. So the power level for the points is higher, but this is very functional. Really good ship, has some of the same good traits as the sloop, just not quite everything. What kind of forces do you think of this? What kind of factions do you think would be best for this ship?
I think this ship is, like I mentioned, great if you have a group like the French privateers and you want to run a musket boat. It's good for the Brethren of the Coast too, or French privateers or privateers buccaneers because of that free grape shot. So you turn those medium cannons into into a surprise grape shot, especially with how it turns. Also, Corsairs get to move this ship at 4 inches if you dedicate it to a galley build. That's kind of unique.
Yeah, I think I've used the Corsairs once on that, and that was really fun.
Yeah, because then you don't have to worry about the wind at all.
Yep. It costs you a lot,
Yeah.
those models, but being able to just ignore the wind can give you a real tactical advantage sometimes.
Especially if you're
Yeah, or
fighting
go.
something like a Corvette where they have at -2 windward value. If you make them come up and chase you and they're struggling, you can whip right back around.
Yeah.
Or go backwards, or do
That's
3
right.
point turns the whole time.
Yeah, with the sweeps and the flexibility of the turn starting point, you could do some wild and unexpected things. It'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of, if you're going backwards, you can essentially turn from the forwardmost skid and do a kind of a really weird turn. That's a lot of fun.
Now I'm afraid of playing this against you playing this against me. You're going to do some weird stuff next time, aren't you?
Oh,
Would you say it rewards creative play?
Has definite opportunities for creative / abusive play. Yes.
yeah, this ship does. It does a lot. I also want to mention that it having two masts is a boon if somebody is trying to target your rigging. If you get the mast destroyed, it doesn't completely put you dead in the water. Kind of like with the bark, if you get a mast destroyed with a bark.
Right.
The sloop, yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen with the sloop. First turn, somebody got or maybe not first turn, but fairly early in the game, I got a mass destroyed, and I was like, "What now?" I guess it does have this natural sweeps too, so that's good. But
Yeah.
that is a notable advantage. You aren't totally toast if you get one mass destroyed.
But you don't pack a spare mass like you would a spare tire?
Doesn't fit on that last deck; it's too small.
So altogether, this is a good ship. It's great for smaller point values, and surprise to bring to the table usually.
Yeah, not as many people run this as a sloop, so it's fun to be a little unique, unusual. This isn't in any of the currently published books. The stats are going to be published in Raise the Black, actually.
Oh, nice.
Same stats on the card, but
If you're on the fence figuring whether you want to buy a bark or a Tartana, get the Tartana. Leave the bark alone.
if you're on the fence, sloop or Tartana, sloop is probably better, but Tartana is spicier. So good
As
option.
of recording on February 8th, 2022, this is $70 compared to the sloop at 82. So there's a little bit of cost savings there, and this is $16 more in the bark as well.
Right in between.
Yeah, solid little ship, a good ship. A lot of fun to see too. We did that whole campaign, and I loved it every time I saw Tartana on the board. It was a lot of fun.
For a little more info on the Tartana, you can check out bloodandpigment.com. We have a article all on the Tartana right there with all the stats and discussion on it as well. More pictures of it. And you can check out our other articles there. We got articles on all the ships and some factions and all things Blood and Plunder. You can check it out there.
Check out the rest of our YouTube channel as well. We'll be aiming to put out a video every Monday. Subscribe and ring the ship's bell so you can stay notified of our uploads.
And as always, keep your dice ready and the wind at your back, yar har.